I always try to do something different. And one of the things was that during my internship days, I saw that there exists a huge gap in the healthcare system. So that needed to be addressed. My dad is a doctor, so it was pretty natural that I went into medical science only. So I started off with my MBBS at Calcutta Medical College, but during that time I somehow did not like the clinical interaction with patients so much. So I was more into non-clinical stuff and networking and interacting with people. So I worked on my soft skills at that time. So post that, I avoided clinical fields and I took up a non-clinical subject at BHU. So I was working there as a resident doctor, a second year, when I actually applied for this MBA thing, and I made it through. So that is actually who I am, and currently going into ISB.
Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations on the admit. Does this work? Like, for example, you also need to do some 1 year of, like a residential internship as part of your MBBS, right? So
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, see, we have 4.5 years of studies, and then we have 1 year of compulsory traineeship. It's internship basically, but that is considered a work experience because in engineering and other things, you have typically have 2 months or 3 months of internships. But here it's a completely 1 year full of job. You get paid and everything. That's a normal job like way. So that counted as 1 year of experience. And I have been working as a resident doctor for around 1.5 years to 2 years. So that also added on.
Right.
So summed up to around 2.9 years, around 3 years.
3 years. So what exactly do you do in these 2 years of at BHU, like you mentioned?
So at BHU, see, pharmacology is more about a research-oriented line. Our main job was more about, teaching the undergraduate students, mentoring them, doing our own research work with faculties because they're publishing their papers, doing the research work. We have to assist them in that. And we have other things like pharmacovigilance, as in adverse drug reactions that are going on in the hospital, prescription monitoring. These all things go on side by side. It's more of a research-oriented line.
So, what was the thought process behind, applying for an MBA? Why did even MBA come to your mind?
I always try to do something different. And one of the things was that during my internship days, I saw that there exists a huge gap in the healthcare system. So that needed to be addressed. And, everyone was complaining about the things, but no one was doing really something to solve that thing. Just shouting at the things and blaming the government for everything won't solve the issue. And if someone needs to get down and do the dirty work. So I decided that let's try out something. But since I come from a medical background, I did not have any knowledge about business whatsoever. Right. So I needed to start things from the scratch. I read about things, what I can do and not. I thought that MBA would be a complete package that would give me that thing to learn and make me the overall thing that I want to be.
Right.
Else, if I would go on my own, I would take a lot of time to get these individual subjects and grasp and get the network and everything. So this will give me the whole package in one place.
Right. So more from the perspective. So how did you? What is the research that you did before you got started, and how did you get to know about Crackverbal?
Crackverbal was something that I actually learned during my GMAT days. I used to follow a lot of their things that Arun sir would upload on the YouTube channels and everything about the strategies and everything. So I was going through that. So I knew about Crackverbal pretty early only. It was not something that I just knew before my admissions or something like that. So I was aware of that.
Right. So since you went through the application process with us, and I think you worked very closely with Arun in this whole process. Tell me your thought process behind, before you got started with the admission consulting thing, what did you think admission consulting was all about? And what was the process different from what you thought it was?
No, the thing is, I read about a lot of things. I typically do a lot of background research before getting into things. So I actually knew what the things were, how things work and everything from the students who have already worked. But the thing is, no matter how much I read, I did not get a grasp of how I can get that mentality to flow the thing. That I was thinking I could do it on my own. But, I haven't been in the actual job market in that sense because we have been limited to hospitals and everything. So we have not been in corporate. So we don't have that idea about framing that thing and bringing it in that, 400 words or 500 words. So that was the issue that I was facing. So I needed to get someone who can guide me into bringing that thought, streamline that thought process, basically. I was just going haywire with the things.
Right. So what was your storyline? Like what was your pitch to the admission committee that why do you believe an MBA is so important for you?
See, the thing is, one of the things that I mentioned earlier only that I don't have the required knowledge that I need to solve this problem in healthcare. That was the main pitch that I gave, that why the MBA is so required. And the other thing is for ISB specifically, since ISB mainly targets the developing economies, that actually helps me a lot because see, healthcare is very different in every part of the world. It's not something like finance or something marketing that you can do it globally. It's a common pitch that you can use in different places. Healthcare has different laws, different applications. The customer base is different. The market is different. Mentalities are different. So that is the reason I needed something that would target developed nations because if I work in India, an Indian MBA would be the best thing to serve me that purpose. And the fact is, ISB has a lot of cases and their professors are constantly working on the typical Indian scenario. So that is an added advantage for the school.
Right. So what is the kind of research do you focus on specifically for ISB? did you like speak to alums, or what was the research you specifically focused on for this?
No, actually, I did not speak to any alum. I actually went on mainly the Quora site, the Googles, and different kinds of experiences from others who have on the YouTube or other places that I could find. Mainly social media was the source of the things.
All right. And
I use LinkedIn to get to know their profiles, what they have done post ISB.
Right. Did you specifically focus on profiles which had a very similar background like yours?
Yeah. I did go on for people with medical background, but that was not specific to ISB, any kind of MBA schools, to see how they have leveraged this period of 1 or 2 years to accelerate their career.
Right. So more from the perspective of applying to the whole process, right? Tell me a little bit about your work with Arun, and how were the interactions, and how did you go about that?
It was a very nice interaction. It was not like a very professional thing or something. It was more on a personal level. He started off with, speaking to me what my aspirations were, my long-term goals were, what was a gap in that place, how that need to be addressed, how I need to change my thought process and everything. So after that, we started working on the application. That was 3 or 4 drafts. So prior to that, we did a lot of homework on how to go about it, do a more bit research on healthcare. What is the issue that I'm trying to address? Be more specific. I was just going in these parallel things. He tried to bring it in this way.
Right.
That was the thing.
Right. Awesome. So how was the ISB application? So once you submitted, how long did it take for the interview? Tell me more about that process.
Yes. So I submitted the application on the 5th of December. That was the last date for round 2. So I was pretty anxious about the whole thing because I wasn't getting any call or something. Because I was expecting at least one interview call. So it was around 29th of Jan. I got an interview invitation from ISB around 2 p.m. Sorry, not 29th. It was around the 23rd. And the interview was scheduled for 29th. So that 1 week, I fully prepared for the interview and everything, rehearsing and everything. And on 29th, I had the interview in the afternoon at 2 p.m. I had 4 panel members coming in, all alumni. And I got the result on the 4th of February.
Wow, just 5 days.
Yeah, 5 days at 10:30 p.m., which I wasn't expecting.
So how was the interview? How did the interview go? Did they grill you a lot on why you believe from a medical field to management? What was their approach in the interview?
Actually, no. The same thing that you mentioned in the beginning, that you were interested in what this typical profile wants to do in an MBA school. That was the same thing that they mentioned, that they were pretty amazed at why, as a doctor, you're wanting to come in. We want to know more about what is happening, what you're thinking. So just a simple discussion, just as I'm having with you, it was the same thing with them only. What are your career aspirations? How does this fit in? Because my short-term goal was mentioned as healthcare consulting. So they want to know how consulting was fitting in the whole picture. So they just had a conversation with me, why you want to do, what can be, 2 situational questions were asked as to what you can do if you get to this position or something. Apart from that, everything was fantastic.
If I have to ask you, words of wisdom, you went through the entire process, GMAT applications, interview, and then finally ended up with an admit, right? Yeah. If you have words of advice to anyone who's aspiring to prepare, apply to any of the schools that you apply to, what would be your advice be to people who are going through that phase right now?
Well, I can't give an advice specifically pertaining to this phase because I had a lot of ups and downs during my GMAT preparation. So for that last 2.5 years, I can just tell people that do not give up. Things will go bad, but just hold on to that. Things will come out.
Right.
That is the thing. Because I stuck to the thing. It was going bad. I felt like leaving it out at one point. Let it be. I just continue with this, but just don't give up. That's the thing.
Right. Thank you so much, Agniva, for your time.